Our coverage of Computex 2025 from Taipei, Taiwan is brought to you by Cooler Master, G-Skill, Trikes, Thermaltake, and Gigabyte. Hey guys, I'm at Corsair now, which was very convenient because they're downstairs from where I'm staying here at the Hyatt. We're going to start talking about some power supplies. We have a bunch of units on display here. I'm going to start by talking about the updated HX series. So they're adding shift to the HX1000, the HX1200i, and the HX1500i. And if you're not familiar with the shift series of power supplies from Corsair, they move or shift the actual connection points for your modular cables to the side of the power supply. Of course, they're still maintaining the Corsair IP for the airflow. These are Cybernetics Platinum rated, so they're going to have peak efficiency in terms of using all the power that comes out of the wall. And I thought that was something that is also interesting, is Corsair seems to have completely ditched 80+. They're only going with Cybernetics, but that's okay because Cybernetics is a good rating system for power supplies, and it has similar types of metals used to indicate like how good it is. So you got gold, you got platinum, and they also do an acoustic rating. So this is an A+ rating for their RMX series, which is already on the market. There's an all-white power supply that I just thought was very clean. This one's also already available on the market, the RM1000E. But they have been updating their connectors, as you have seen with some other companies have done, like MSI. The 12V2x6 connector is somewhat notorious. Corsair can't do anything about that. They didn't make the standard, but they can do everything they can to give a little bit more peace of mind for people who are connecting up, like an RTX 5090 or a really high-end graphics card. You've got a two-tone color coding there with a bit of gray, so plug it in all the way until the gray is hidden. Here's a look at the black version as well. These are, of course, using the debossed PVC coating on the cables themselves, which I showed you guys back at CES. And then this cable for the RM series also has a 90-degree connector on one side. That's also helpful. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot, for these new Shift Series HX models, HXI, they're integrating an iCue link directly into the unit itself. So if you guys aren't familiar with iCue link, it's Corsair's proprietary connector for controlling RGB, fan speed, and a bunch of other stuff. It is an ecosystem that you need to invest in. However, the controllers for them need a higher power connector. So they use a PCI Express power connector. So to keep things a little bit cleaner, they've integrated that directly into the power supply itself, and you still have two connection points. You have support for all the same device connections as you do with a typical iCue Link hub. And here's a look at a system with one of those HX shift power supplies installed. You can see the use of the 90-degree angled connector there in order to keep things a little bit clean. There's that iCue Link hub right there. There is another iCue Link hub because of course you can have more than one in the system. And nice clean cabling going up here to your SSDs, and you can see they also have integrated cable combs. This is a Corsair Platform 4 sit-stand desk. They came out with these last year. You guys might be familiar. Kyle did a side-by-side build with these, and then his house burned down. Rip Kyle's house. I'm getting a little bit distracted though. What I wanted to point out is that this has a pegboard at the back and allows you to mount a bunch of different stuff. Corsair wanted to have a variety of accessories for people to do cool things like maybe mount a PC directly to the pegboard. That's pretty cool. But practically speaking, since this is a slightly more niche product, it made more sense for Corsair to simply open source some of the designs for 3D printing. So over on Printables, you can go and access some of those 3D printable designs. Print them out. I mean, you got to have a 3D printer, of course. That's kind of key. But then you can modify and upgrade your Platform 4 desk, add a computer to it, mount some radiators over here. Pretty cool. I like that advancement, and I like the open source approach to it as well. Actually, a quick correction. I thought that was an iCue Link hub, but it's not, because the iCue Link hubs are square. That's actually an ARGB conversion device. Because while I mentioned that Corsair has a proprietary iCue Link system, they want you to also be able to use your own control if you want. So like the ARGB fans on the front of this case, they get fed over to that, and then that connects over to the iCue Link hub. Also installed in this case, did I tell you what case this is? It's the Frame 5000D. Okay, wanted to confirm that. Also installed in this little panel down here is the Corsair Xeneon Edge. This was announced at CES, although I didn't get a chance to look at it there. It's a 14.5-inch diagonal touchscreen display, 2560 by 720. It's got a 60 Hz refresh rate, so you're probably not going to want to be playing games on it or anything like that, but it's mainly used for stuff like displaying system stats on the side panel. Also, it is a touchscreen, although I don't know if that's enabled for this one right now. It is over here. Yeah, this one we can like swipe to the side to show more stats and stuff like that. So touch panel enabled, that's pretty cool. You can actually set this up with like buttons on it, so you can use it more like a Stream Deck. And they designed it so it can actually go on the same mount as a 360mm radiator. Pretty cool product. Should be coming out later this year. Corsair is expanding their frame series with this, the Frame 4500X. It's available in white and black. Still working on the development, but we're expecting this to launch in September. Of Corsair said it's going to cost $160, and it is going to include 3 ARGB fans. Those are also reverse blade fans, which is nice. So this is a case where just by looking at it, you can probably tell a lot of the compatibility. Like we've got support for 360 rad along the side there. You also have 140mm fan mounts. I thought it was interesting how this entire thing gets disassembled, since it does have a wraparound curved front panel here. That is one big piece, so it slides forward a little bit and then can lift off. You can also see the cool design along the top here. Those pieces also come off modularly. And then another interesting thing I found over on the back side is that this is actually, it's not a single panel for the side panel. They actually come off separately. And I'm not going to attempt to do that one-handed, but I got some footage of this thing being broken down to its frame, which is kind of the theme of this whole series. Since this is part of the frame series, we also have interoperability, which means like the power supply shroud unit in there can be removed, and that would fit into a different Corsair frame case. How many Corsair frame cases do you have? And do you commonly swap parts between your cases? Maybe you don't, but interoperability is always really convenient and nice to have. They said they're also going to be probably launching a higher end version of this case that includes Corsair iCue link fans. That'll probably be in the $200 plus range. Here is the black version of the Frame 4500X, and this one of course has a full build inside. In fact, a custom water-cooled build. In fact, look, it's even a Corsair full cover water block for the RTX 5090. That's the Asus Astral Edition, which is one of the most expensive RTX 5090s. So for any one of my viewers who's extremely rich, maybe you're interested in that Corsair water block. I was like, I mean, you only got to make like 6 of these, right? And they said, yeah, we're probably sampling more of them than we're actually selling. Beautiful build though. And what do you guys think? The Frame 4500X, pretty clean. I think it's looking good. Good job, Corsair. Now the Frame 4000D, you guys are probably already familiar with, but when I showed you guys at CES, we talked about its modularity and the possibility of doing upgrades and things like that. So this is a prototype unit that has a few unique things. One that is just good guy Corsair helping people out was the top panel here was a little bit, maybe not quite as sturdy as it could have been with the original Frame 4000D. It was 6mm steel panel. They have upped that to 8mm to provide a little bit more sturdiness and rigidity. Unfortunately, you won't really be able to tell which version you're going to get because it's still just going to be called the 4000D, but new units shipping from Corsair will have that upgraded top piece. Here's an example of potentially a front panel for the case that maybe might be included on like a high-end elite version or something like that. This pops right out. This is a milled piece of billet aluminum. And then it has a plastic frame across the middle that was custom made just for this prototype. This is a nice sturdy front panel. It has a pretty cool unique look, and it being aluminum, it is both sturdy and lightweight. Beneath that we have an audio upgrade, another potential product that they're considering. This is an AKM DAC integrated. I don't know exactly which model because I'm not that much on the audio file side of things. But you get stuff like a 1/4-inch gold-plated jack, also an 1/8 inch included there as well. And that's alongside your front panel connectors and your power button, and you also have a built-in volume knob. So a pretty easy way to increase or improve the audio on your PC. And then finally we have a clear side panel version of a power supply. I mean, you got cases with clear side panels. Might as well do that with power supplies too, because it is pretty fascinating, I think, to see the internals of a high-end PSU unit. This is the HX1000i Shift with a clear plexi side piece. So again, most of these are prototype items that they are considering for the 4000D or for future developments. So looking for your feedback in the comment section below, guys. Let Corsair know what you think. Are you interested in any of this stuff? But wait, there's more. We have one more thing here on the back. This is actually developed in collaboration with Singularity PCs. It's a Powerboard. Since the Corsair frame cases use a standardized frame or mount for the motherboard tray, this is a Powerboard that could potentially be developed that would be compatible with lots of different motherboards. That would allow you to take your connections from the power supply, you plug it into the board, and that distributes it. So then you have just a single little connector cable up there for your 24-pin. You got dual 8 pins up there for the CPU. I was shown this and I was baffled for just a moment, because isn't BTF supposed to hide the cables? But there are still cables out here. Anyway, I'm confused about this particular one, but maybe you guys are fascinated by it. Let me know in the comments section below, of all these prototype items that they have put in this cool little display in the 4000D, which one do you find most interesting? Look, this new case has awards, and I think it's actually a pretty cool case. I've just been given the rundown on the Air-5400, kind of a riff on the old school Air-540 case that Corsair has had in the past. I'm told this is a triple chamber case. Triple chamber? That's 3 is more than 2. So first off, we have some directional airflow units down here for the intake at the bottom to force the air directly into your GPU. Similar setup up at the top, so that is a unique feature. Wrapping around this side, we see the back panel, of course, and then this would be where the second chamber is, where you're going to have your power supply, cable management. Did I mention that also hinge doors? Nice clean all white finish in here. The third chamber is this one right here. So this is going to be where you want to route over like a radiator for your all-in-one liquid cooler, and then it's open. So none of that heat from your CPU, or I mean I guess you could route like a GPU with an AIO over to it here. So all that heat from your CPU is going to be pushed this way, and then this is going to direct it completely out of the case. No more heat contamination from your overclocked CPU inside your system. This is actually smaller as well than the 6500. Corsair was trying to keep the size down a little bit on this system. And then another cool thing up here is 3 USB Type-C ports. Now this one over here is going to be your 20 gigabit per second port. And then they've taken your USB 3.0 connector, added a MUX chip so that you can still have the dual plug connectivity, so you can plug the plug in either way, but it will still work with USB 3, so you'll get 5 gigabits per second out of both of those ports. Very handy if you want to plug in something that doesn't necessarily need all the bandwidth every 20 gigabits per second port, or taking up those valuable ports on the back of your motherboard. Here's the black version of the case, and this one doesn't have a system installed, so just showing you guys how the whole thing breaks down. There's a panel that pops off for the front where your radiator would be. Top panel just pops off like that, nice and easy. You can see you got the mount at the top for your top radiator. Do note that you're going to be limited to 120 fans over there on the side, but then we have hinges on all of the other panels, so you can just swing them open. Tons of access to the interior. And taking a look at the motherboard tray, we can see we're still maintaining support for reverse connector motherboards, as well as lots of perforation to allow airflow through. And then one final thing is for all the places where the cables pass through, they're actually using a brush. And I swear you guys, I'm not joking. I had this idea like 10 years ago. I actually wanted to use it for like routing cables through into my HTPC for like my home theater. But just using a brush allows you to sort of push the cable through wherever you might need to go, and then the brush kind of blocks the area other than that. And I've used this along the top, which is where you would pass through your cables to get to your front radiator, as well as all the way down this side. I really like that. It feels soft too. I just want to touch it. One more concept product here that I wanted to get you guys feedback on. That is the open frame right here. What this is the motherboard tray basically from the Corsair 4000 frame series with some extra pieces added. So you got some metal pieces that screw into the bottom to add some feet. This piece over here adds a handle, or with the custom build they have here, they added an extra piece in there to make it a pass-through. A power supply mount there on the back, and then they also have some support where you can mount a radiator. Lots of flexibility here. Corsair said the idea is that, you know, maybe you buy the Frame 4000 case and maybe use it for a few years, and then down the line you're looking to repurpose some of those parts. You could then turn that into a test bed with this open frame concept. Again, it's a concept product, but Corsair said they're pretty sure they're going to actually bring this to market. Look for it to come out in possibly January or Q1 of 2026. Corsair has a lot more stuff here. They've got their whole SCUF lineup of like gaming peripherals and stuff, but I'm out of time, so that's going to wrap it up. The Air-5400 case over there that I showed you guys is expected to come out in Q3, so look for it then, and the pricing around $220 to $230 US. But that is all the time I have for here at the Corsair booth suite. I want to say a huge thank you to my sponsors for Computex 2025, G-Skill, Thermaltake, Trikes, Cooler Master, and Gigabyte. More videos coming at you real soon, so hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed this one. Check the playlist in the description if you want to see more. See you in the next video. All right.